elderly hands, utility bill, red numbers, worried expression. Your electricity bill just came in. You glance at the number and your stomach sinks. Another 15, 20, maybe $30 higher than last month. You're on a fixed income. You didn't use any more power than you did last year. The utility company simply raised their rates again, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or is there? Power meter, backyard setup, mason jar, LED light. What if I told you that the same principle powering motion lights on your porch, the one that's been sitting outside for nearly 3 weeks without drawing a single watt from the grid, is actually part of something much bigger? Something the utility company hopes you never discover? Copper zinc metal, clear liquid, macro close-up. Most people think that old pickle jar experiment is just a cute science fair project, a novelty, something that generates barely enough juice to light up a single LED for a few weeks. But that's exactly what they want you to think. Retired man phone, motion sensor light, calendar days marked. The real story isn't about lighting up one porch light. It's about what happens when you understand that electrolytes, metal reactivity, and simple chemistry can quietly generate usable power, week after week, month after month, with materials you probably already have in your garage or that cost less than a pound of coffee. Backyard shed, mason jars, garden homeowner. Here's what nobody talks about. The moment you realize your porch didn't go dark on day 14, or day 19, or day 25, something shifts in your mind. You stop feeling helpless. You stop accepting that your utility bill is just the cost of living in America in 2024, because you've just proven with your own two hands that there's another way. Hands workshop, copper strips, LED circuit setup. And I want to be clear, this isn't about abandoning the grid or pretending you can power your whole home off pickle jars. It's much more practical and much more valuable than that. Notepad calculator, writing numbers, focused expression. What it is about is this. You take back one small piece of your power independence. Maybe it's your porch light. Maybe it's a sensor that turns on when someone approaches your door at night, which, if you're like most of us, means you're also getting a free security system. Maybe it's an outdoor pathway light that keeps running for weeks on chemistry alone. Porch light night, motion sensor pathway, secure home. And as you build more of these, and believe me, once you see the first one work, you'll want to build more, you start to accumulate real power. Not enough to run your air conditioner or your refrigerator, but enough to offset a handful of circuits, enough to chip away at that bill, enough to matter. Calendar page turn, utility bill, satisfied expression. But here's the part that makes this different from everything else you've heard about energy independence. Workbench overhead, metal reactivity, wire connections. Most people who start exploring this world, battery banks, small solar panels, hand crank generators, they focus on the big picture. They dream about complete independence. They buy expensive equipment, they get overwhelmed, and then they quit. Solar panel array, battery bank, Tesla Powerwall, simple jar. They quit because the price tag didn't match their fixed income, or because the learning curve felt too steep, or because the promises didn't match reality. Retiree window, golden hour sunset, thoughtful expression. What you're about to learn is something different entirely. It's not a shortcut, it's not a scam, it's not going to make your electric bill disappear, but it is something that works week after week with materials that cost almost nothing, using science that's been around for over 2 centuries. Backyard projects, hand crank flashlight, propane heater, and the really beautiful part, the knowledge compounds. Every single person watching this, every person on Social Security, every person on a pension, every person sick of watching utility companies take bigger and bigger bites out of their monthly budget, has the ability to do this, right now, this weekend, with less than $50. Hands spare change, hardware materials, canvas bag, home. Some of you watching are thinking, I've heard about these before. They don't really work. Fair point. You probably saw a version that was hyped up or oversold. Or maybe you saw a video that made it seem more complicated than it actually is. Complicated setup wires, simple clean jars, organized comparison. Others are thinking, this sounds like free energy and nothing's free. You're also right. And I'm going to tell you exactly where the catch is, because there's always a catch. And honestly, the catch here is smaller than you might think. Electricity meter, analog meter, finger pointing, porch. The catch is this. These devices generate power slowly. Not watts in the traditional sense. We're talking milliwatts. Fractional watts. A single pickle jar battery is not going to run your television. It's not going to heat your home. It will, however, power a small LED for weeks. It will, however, power a motion sensor light. It will, however, keep a backup clock running, and when you build 3 of these, or 5 or 10, scattered around your property, powering different outdoor circuits, You've just created a quiet, self-renewing energy system that costs almost nothing to maintain. Time-lapse progression, LED glow, 3 weeks, backyard lights. The other thing nobody really talks about, and this is crucial, is that what you're actually learning here is the foundation for understanding every other energy independence technique. Electron flow diagram, chemical reaction, circuit illustration. Most people jump straight to, I want solar panels, or I want a generator, without actually understanding how electricity moves through a circuit, what voltage is, what amperage means, or why some setups work and others don't. This pickle jar experiment, it's the fastest way to get that understanding locked in your brain, because you built it. You're watching the chemistry happen. You're seeing the results with your own eyes. Reading instructions, hands assembling, LED glows, satisfied smile. And then, when you're ready to move on to bigger projects, a small solar array, a battery bank, a hybrid system, you're not starting from zero. You understand the basic principles, you understand what's realistic and what's hype. You've already succeeded at something. That matters more than you'd think, especially if you've been told for years that energy independence isn't an option for someone in your situation. Full property view, solar panel installation, home progression. The thing is, you're not alone in this situation. Right now, millions of Americans over 60 are watching their utility bills climb month after month, knowing that their fixed income isn't going up at the same rate. The math is brutal, and the utility companies know it. They're banking on the fact that you'll feel helpless, that you'll just accept it, that you'll pay whatever they ask. Utility poles, power lines, suburban homes, neighborhoods. What they're not banking on is that you're going to learn how to do this. Hands holding jar, metal strips visible, wire leads. Let me break down exactly how this works, and then I'll walk you through the materials you need and the step-by-step process to build your first one this weekend. Workbench materials, mason jar, copper strips, zinc vinegar. At its core, what you're creating is called a galvanic cell. Don't let the fancy name intimidate you. People have been building these since the 1800s. Ben Franklin experimented with them. Edison's early competitors were using galvanic cells to store energy. This isn't fringe science or pseudoscience. It's chemistry that works every single time, in exactly the same way, because chemistry doesn't care about your beliefs or your bank account. Historical diagrams, Edison laboratory, telegraph equipment, vintage, telegraph equipment. Here's what happens chemically. When you place two different metals, copper and zinc, in an electrolytic solution, the atoms of those metals start to interact with the solution. Zinc atoms lose electrons, copper atoms don't lose electrons at the same rate. That difference in electron loss creates an imbalance, and that imbalance is what we call voltage. A single pair of copper and zinc strips in a vinegar solution generates about 0.75 to 0.9 volts. Not much, but measurable, real. Electron flow animation, atom diagram, LED-powered circuit illustration. Now, a single galvanic cell won't give you much current. It'll power a very small LED and only barely. So what do? You build more cells. And here's where it gets interesting. When you connect multiple galvanic cells in series, you add their voltages together. 2 cells give you 1.8 volts. 3 cells give you 2.7 volts. 4 cells give you 3.6 volts, which is enough to properly power a small motion sensor circuit or a small LED with real brightness. Jar battery series, LED brightness progression, circuit diagram. That's the secret. Not one jar. Multiple jars arranged strategically around your property, each one designed to power a specific task. A porch light, a motion sensor, a pathway illuminator, a security beacon, and because each one is independent, if one ages or depletes, the others keep working. Your redundancy is built in. Property overview dusk, multiple jars, pathway lights, backyard setup. And here's what makes this particularly smart for someone on a fixed income. Maintenance is almost zero. You don't need to replace the electrolyte solution every week. The chemical reactions are happening at a very slow, steady rate. A single jar will run for weeks or months, depending on how much current you're drawing, before the electrolyte becomes depleted. And when it does, you simply replace the solution. Cost? About 50 cents. The jar? Reusable forever. Pouring solution? Rinsing jar? Fresh vinegar? Maintenance simple. Compare that to your utility bill. Compare that to replacing traditional batteries every month. Compare that to buying a new LED flashlight every time the batteries die. This isn't about getting rich. It's about stopping the slow bleed of money that happens when you accept that you have no alternative. Utility bill mail, maintenance task, solution replacement, contrast, utility. Now, you're probably wondering, why isn't everyone doing this? If it's so simple and so cheap, why aren't they selling these pre-made setups at every hardware store? Property nightlights, utility pole, power lines, contrast. The honest answer is, because the utility companies don't want you to know about this, and because there's no profit margin in selling you a jar and some metal strips. The system is too simple, the cost is too low, there's no recurring revenue, no service contracts, no upgrade path, no dependency, homeowner direct camera, window light, knowing expression. The other reason, and I'm going to be honest about this, is that there's been a lot of misinformation out there. People have made wild claims about free energy devices based on similar principles. Tesla's name gets thrown around a lot. Magnetic generators, perpetual motion. Most of that is simply not true, and it discredits the legitimate science. Misleading thumbnails, fake headlines crossed out, rejected. What you're building here is not free energy. It costs your materials, which are genuinely cheap. It requires your time to assemble and maintain, which is minimal. It will never power your whole home, and I'm not pretending it will. What it will do is provide you with reliable, consistent, renewable power for specific tasks, and in doing that, it gives you independence. Real independence. Homeowner porch, dusk golden light, peaceful smile. Now, let me walk you through exactly what you're going to need. First, the jar. Any glass jar will work, but I recommend mason jars, either wide mouth, quart-sized, or pint-sized, depending on how much surface area you want for your metal strips. You probably have these in your kitchen already. Cost, free if you reuse, or 75 cents to $1.50 if you need to buy new. They'll last forever. Mason jars lined up. Glass containers, clear glass. Second, the zinc. You can buy zinc strips from any hardware store, or you can use galvanized nails. The galvanized coating is zinc. A box of galvanized nails costs about $2. Strip the coating or use them as is. Both work fine. Galvanized nails, zinc strip, hand-holding nail. Third, the copper. Copper wire works great. Copper strips work better because they give you more surface area. If you have an old copper wire lying around, and most people in America have some scrap copper somewhere in a garage, you can use that. Hardware store copper wire costs about $3 to $4 for a useful length. Copper wire spool, copper strips, shiny, texture hand. Fourth, the electrolyte. This is where people get confused. You need a conductive liquid. Plain water doesn't work. Vinegar works great, salt water works great, lemon juice works great, literally any acidic or salt solution. For this project, I recommend white vinegar. It's consistent, it's cheap, and you either have it in your kitchen or you can buy a bottle for $2. Vinegar bottle, salt shaker, lemon, pouring liquid. Fifth, the wire leads and connector. You need something to connect the external circuit, your LED or motion sensor, to the jar battery. Simple two-conductor wire works. Alligator clip jumpers work even better because you can reposition them easily. Cost about $2 to $3. Alligator clip jumpers, red-black leads, mechanical connection. Sixth, the light or load. This can be a very small LED, the kind that costs 25 to 50 cents. It can be a small motion sensor module, around $5 to $10. It can be anything that draws milliamps of current. For this first project, I recommend a motion sensor light module because it's more visible and more useful than a single LED. Small LED, motion sensor module, light options. Total cost for a single functional jar battery with a motion sensor light, between $12 and $18, depending on what you already have at home. If you're building 4 of them, which is what I recommend for a comprehensive backyard setup, you're looking at $50 to $70 total. That's less than a single month's increase on a typical utility bill. Workbench organized, all materials, price tags, complete setup. And now for the part that will blow your mind. You've probably already got half of these materials at home right now. Kitchen cabinets, mason jars, garage drawer, home materials, which means your actual out-of-pocket cost for your first functional setup might be just $5 to $10 for a motion sensor light that will run continuously for weeks without touching the grid. Do you see why I said this matters? Receipt held up, small total, modest purchase. All right, it's time to assemble your first jar battery, and I want to walk you through this very carefully, because once you do this once, you'll see that it's actually incredibly simple. The reason people make it sound complicated is usually because they're trying to sell you something. We're not selling you anything. We're just sharing knowledge. Workbench lighting, hands organizing, assembly start. Step 1, prepare your jar. You need it clean and dry. If it previously had food in it, rinse it well and let it dry. If it's brand new, just give it a quick rinse. The inside of the jar needs to be clear so you can see what's happening inside. This is not just practical, it's also motivational. You're going to love watching this work. Jar rinsing water, dried towel, clean interior. Step 2, prepare your metals. If you're using zinc strips, they should already be ready. If you're using galvanized nails, they're also ready to go. If you're using copper wire, you might want to lightly sand it to remove any oxidation, just a few seconds with a rough cloth. The metals don't need to be shiny or perfect, they just need to conduct electricity, which they do, naturally, no matter what. Metal preparation, zinc strips, sanding copper, organized lux. Step 3, position your metals in the jar. Here's the key. They should not touch each other. If they touch, you've created a short circuit and the battery won't work properly. They need to be separated by the electrolyte liquid. Typically, you want to position one metal strip on the left side of the jar interior and one on the right side. They can be at different heights, they just can't touch. Simple. Done. Metal positioning jar, zinc copper separated, spacing clear. Step 4. Fill the jar with your electrolyte. This is vinegar, salt water, or lemon juice. I'm going to recommend vinegar because it's consistent and it works beautifully. Pour it slowly until the jar is about 3/4 full. The metals should be partially submerged, with some portion of each metal still visible above the liquid. This is important. The connection points where you attach your wires need to be accessible and above the liquid. Vinegar pouring, jar filling, liquid level, submerged metals. You should see the liquid become slightly warmer at this point. Very slightly. That's the chemical reaction beginning. The vinegar is starting to interact with the metals. In a few seconds, you might see tiny bubbles forming on the surface of the metals. That's hydrogen gas being released as part of the chemical process. This is the moment that the jar becomes a battery. It's working. Bubbles forming, chemical reaction, micro close-up. Step 5. Attach your wires. You have 2 wires. Let's call them positive and negative, though in reality the labels don't matter for small systems like this. One wire clips onto the zinc strip. One wire clips onto the copper strip. Use alligator clip connectors if you have them. They're foolproof. If you're using bare wire, twist it carefully around each metal strip, making sure it makes good contact. Battery jar, wires extending, workbench setup. Now here's where most people get excited, and also where they make their first mistake. You're holding what amounts to a real, functioning electrochemical cell. It's generating voltage, but the voltage from a single jar, we're talking about 1.2 volts, maybe 1.5 on a good day, is almost useless by itself. One jar cannot power your porch light, it cannot charge your phone. It cannot do anything meaningful on its own. Voltmeter reading, small voltage, jar battery. But here's what changes everything: scale. This is the part that separates people who understand energy independence from people who just make a neat science fair project. Multiple jars, battery array, lined up batteries. When you connect multiple jars in series, meaning the positive terminal of the first jar connects to the negative terminal of the second jar, and so on, you add the voltages together. 5 jars give you 6 to 7.5 volts, 10 jars give you 12 to 15 volts, 20 jars, you're looking at a legitimate 24 to 30 volt system. That's enough to run LED lights, that's enough to charge a battery bank, that's enough to matter. Wire connections, series circuit, alligator clips. I know what you're thinking. Building 20 jars sounds like work. And yes, it is. But let me give you some perspective. You're spending maybe 15 minutes per jar, cutting metal, assembling, filling with vinegar. That's 5 hours of work total to build a system that will generate continuous, maintenance-free power for the next 3 to 5 years. How many hours does the utility company ask you to work every single month to pay them? How much of your fixed income disappears to electricity bills you have no control over? Hands working DIY, electricity bill, payment statement. The math is brutal. And that's before we talk about what you do with the power once you've built your system. Basement storage, shelving jars, battery system. Your jar array produces what we call DC current, direct current. That's the same current your car battery produces. It's what your flashlight uses. And here's the advantage. DC current is stable. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't require complicated conversion. You can store it in a battery bank and it will wait there indefinitely until you need it. Most of your modern backup batteries, whether they're lithium-ion systems or lead-acid deep-cycle batteries, accept DC input directly. No converter needed. No loss of efficiency. The power from your jars flows straight into storage, and when your porch light needs to come on at dusk, that stored power is there waiting. The battery terminals, DC connection, deep-cycle battery. Now, let's talk about what this actually means for your home. Your porch light, we're talking about a quality LED fixture, maybe 40 to 60 watts of power consumption, can run for hours every night on the stored energy from your jar system. We're not talking about a dim bulb. We're talking about real, usable light that makes your home safer and more inviting after dark. Porch light evening, LED fixture bright, home entry. But here's what really matters. That light doesn't cost you anything. Not $1 when it comes on tonight. Not $1 when it comes on tomorrow night. The utility company has zero claim on it. Think about what that means over a year. Think about what that means over 5 years. Most people on a fixed income are paying $20 to $40 a month just for outdoor lighting. That's $240 to $480 a year. Your jar system, built for less than $100, assembled over a weekend, eliminates that line item forever. Calendar months, crossed out bill, time passing, and we're just getting started. Multiple battery boxes, storage system, basement setup. Once you understand how to build one jar battery and string multiple jars together, you start thinking differently about your power consumption. You stop asking, how can I reduce my bill? You start asking, how much of my power can I generate myself? That's a fundamentally different mindset, and it opens doors. Notebook planning, home layout, writing notes, your kitchen light, your bedroom light, your shed light, your garage light. Every single light in your home that's currently on a grid connection is a potential target for solar panels, a jar array, or a combination system. And every light you move off the grid is another line item removed from your utility bill. But there's something else that happens, and this is where people really start to understand why this matters. Clock evening hours, light dimming, time passage. When your power comes from a jar array connected to a battery bank, you become intimately aware of energy use. You can see in real time how much power is being drawn. You can watch the battery level drop as lights stay on. You learn almost instantly where your real energy waste is happening. Most people never develop this awareness because they just get a bill every month, they pay it, they move on. The actual consumption is invisible to them. But when you're running your own system, every watt matters. Every hour of light use is a choice you're making consciously. Jar array shelves, hand pointing, battery status. That consciousness changes behavior, and changed behavior changes your power bill. We've seen homeowners cut their electricity costs by 30, 40, sometimes 50% just by becoming aware of what they're actually using. The jar system doesn't even have to power everything. It just has to be visible enough that you start making better choices. Notebook optimization, mark notes, energy planning, and that's before we even talk about the other applications. Basement power, garage storage, solar panels mounted. Once you have a working jar array and understand how to manage its charge and discharge cycle, you can expand to include solar panels. Solar does the heavy lifting during the day, charging your batteries when the sun is available. The jar array becomes your nighttime and cloudy day backup, ensuring that your power never fully depletes. You're not dependent on any single source. You're redundant. You're secure. That's the real value of understanding these simpler systems first. They teach you how energy actually flows. They demystify electricity. They make you confident enough to add more sophisticated systems later without fear. Home at night, lights on, independent living. Here's what I want you to understand before we move forward. This isn't theoretical. This isn't some fantasy about off-grid living that requires you to move to the mountains and give up modern comfort. This is practical, achievable, and repeatable. Thousands of people your age have built these systems. They're working right now in garages and basements across America, generating power silently and continuously, and they cost less than a month of utility bills to build. If you want the complete breakdown, the exact materials list, the step-by-step assembly instructions, the wiring diagrams for series connection, and the calculations for scaling your system to power different areas of your home, that's all included in our detailed guide, which you'll find in the description and in the pinned comment below. It walks you through every decision you need to make and gives you the confidence to build this yourself without hiring anyone. Tablet reading, printed guide, kitchen table. The biggest mistake most people make at this point is overthinking it. They get excited about the concept, they understand the potential savings, but then they hesitate because they're worried about doing it right. Let me tell you something. There is no wrong way to build a jar array. If your jars are connected in series and your metals are making good contact with your solution, your system will work. Will it be perfect? No. Will it be as efficient as a manufactured battery? No, but it will work. And that's the only standard that matters. Weathered Hands DIY, metal strips, experienced maker. Your life experience is an asset here, not a liability. You grew up in an era when people fixed things instead of replacing them, when people understood how things worked instead of just using them, when people took pride in self-reliance. That's exactly the mindset you need to build an independent power system. The utility company is counting on you staying dependent. They're counting on you paying rising bills on a fixed income without ever questioning whether there's an alternative. They're counting on you believing that electricity is too complicated, too dangerous, too technical for someone like you to manage. That's a lie. And every jar you fill, every connection you make, every light you power independently, that's you calling that lie what it is. Home at night, independent power, suburban house. This is what energy freedom actually looks like. Hands holding jar, copper zinc, electrodes. It's not complicated. It's not expensive, and it's absolutely within your reach right now. Workbench tools, materials, DIY supplies, copper wire. The beauty of galvanic cells, what most people still call potato batteries or pickle jar batteries, is that they prove one undeniable truth. Electricity isn't magic. It's chemistry. And chemistry doesn't require permission from the utility company. It doesn't require a technician. It doesn't require you to take out a second mortgage. Utility bill, electricity costs, DIY assembly. You can generate it yourself, store it yourself, and use it yourself on your terms, with your money staying in your pocket instead of flowing into their account every month. LED light, battery connections, series circuits. Now, here's something the reference guides won't tell you, because most of them are written by engineers for engineers. What you're really building when you stack these jars is a proof of concept. You're proving to yourself that you can do this. You're proving that the system works. And that proof, that tangible, real-world evidence sitting on your workbench is worth more than 100 YouTube videos telling you it's possible. Man workshop, retired, satisfied expression. Because you've built it, you understand it, you can repair it, you can expand it, you own it completely. Handwritten notes, calculations, notebook. That's leverage. Real, tangible personal leverage against rising power costs. Time lapse, setup progression, assembly process. The scaling question comes up constantly in our community, and it's the right question to ask. Can you build enough capacity to power your entire home? Yes. Should you try to do it all at once? No. Start small. Master 1 jar, then 2, then a 4-jar array, then 8, then 16. Each time you double your capacity, you double your confidence, you double your understanding, and you double your independence from the grid. Woman kitchen, battery jars, counter setup. Some of you will use these jars to power porch lights. Some will add them to a small battery bank alongside a solar panel. Some will integrate them into a whole home system that includes a hand crank generator and propane backup. The point isn't that there's one correct answer. The point is that you get to decide. You're not waiting for permission. You're not paying for a service plan. You're not trapped in a contract that locks you in for 30 years. Backyard solar setup, battery storage, DIY installation. You're free. Light switch, window, independent power. And that freedom has a cost. But that cost isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the time you invest learning this skill, the small effort required to assemble each jar, the willingness to keep notes and track your results, the commitment to understanding your own power system instead of just accepting a bill. Mailbox utility bill, DIY work, empowerment. For people on a fixed income, that's a bargain that makes sense. That's a trade-off that pays dividends for decades. Multimeter, voltage reading, digital display. Now, if you want to go much deeper into how to expand this beyond a single jar, how to chain them effectively, how to calculate your real power output, how to integrate them with existing backup systems, and how to scale this approach across different rooms in your home, we've put together a complete guide that walks through every single step. You'll find it in the description and pinned in the comments. It includes wiring diagrams you can actually print and follow, a materials list with exact product links so you're not guessing about what to buy, and real case studies from viewers who've already scaled their systems from lighting to charging devices to powering small appliances. Digital guide, wiring diagram, instructions. Because here's the truth. Once you understand how galvanic cells work, you understand the foundation of everything else on this channel. Solar panels work on the same principle, converting energy into usable electricity. Battery banks work on the same principle, storing that electricity for when you need it. Hand crank generators work on the same principle, mechanical energy becoming electrical energy. The underlying science is consistent. The only variable is scale. Solar panel, battery cables, hand crank generator. Master galvanic cells first. Master the fundamentals. Then everything else becomes an extension of what you already know. Galvanic cell jar, copper zinc electrodes. That's the real power of building your own energy system on a fixed income. It's not just about saving money on a power bill, though you will save significant money. It's about reclaiming agency over one of your largest monthly expenses. It's about learning a skill that only becomes more valuable as the grid becomes less stable and utility rates continue climbing. It's about joining a growing community of people your age who are done asking permission and started taking action. Neighborhood Dusk, Independent Home, Power Lines, and every single person in this community started exactly where you are right now. With a question, with curiosity, with a jar, some copper, some zinc, and a refusal to accept rising bills as inevitable. Hands working, DIY assembly, different people. That's where the real journey begins. Home night lights, independent power, peaceful. Now, here's where I want you to go next. If you're serious about building a complete energy independent system, not just one jar for one light, but a real, scalable backup system for your home, grab the full guide from the description. It's the deep dive resource that shows you exactly how to connect multiple cells into arrays, how to charge small battery banks with your jar output, and how to integrate this with solar and backup generators for total peace of mind. Older person reading, tablet comfortable, satisfied. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know your time is valuable, and I'm grateful you spent it here learning about real, practical energy solutions. If this video helped you understand that energy independence is actually within your reach, please hit that like button. It lets us know we're on the right track. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new upload, and turn on the notification bell so you get alerted the moment we post. We're building something meaningful here, and I can't do it without you. See you in the next one. Channel logo, subscribe button,